Very warm welcome. It's Shane from Mavstar. And again, we're going to have to go over what we've been over before, but I think you'll find this video very interesting. We're talking about the stalker that I've had to deal with now for over 2 years that emails me constantly, every day almost. And if you don't know what that's like, then I suggest you just type in after this video what it's like to be stalked by somebody. This guy's gone into my personal business records and made them public by his own choosing. He's gone on my Facebook. He's used family photos of other members of my family. And he's accused me of all sorts of things which are not true. And that's why today we're doing this video, because we're going to go through them each by one by one. So the first one he said is that this is not a certificate for my qualification. He said that this was just an attendance certificate, and it's not, because anyone who's ever studied at a university, which is in my view one of the best universities in the world, because it allows you to study part-time, so if you've got a job you can still further your education on the evenings if you should choose to do that. But he says that that is a certificate of attendance, and that is the academic transcript. And I don't mind that I'm sharing my address with anyone or my personal information, but you'll see my personal identifier on there somewhere, and you'll also see what that qualification is all about on the bottom. I'll just read out the disciplines, across the disciplines of the it includes astronomy, biological science, chemistry, earth science, environmental science and physics. Okay, now that is a certificate or an academic transcript, and that is the awarded certificate for the qualification. So now I'd like to see him say that that's just an attendance certificate, because we've clearly proved him wrong. And you've got my details there, and you're welcome to check up on your Open University, and just verify that, just in case, because we know what he's going to say next. You printed that up yourself? Really? Printed it up myself? You know what? I've given you my personal identifier there for the Open University. You can check it out yourselves, right? It's bona fide, original and real, right? So, yeah, I am qualified to talk in the subjects that we do here. Like CO2, like the geomagnetic reversal, like the coronal mass ejections from the sun, CMEs, things like that. I'm qualified to talk about those things, unlike a lot of people. He said, the other thing he said is that I live in a halfway house, which is, I believe, something that criminals have to live in when they come out of jail. Yeah, come on, show you around my house. Right. Does this look like a halfway house? Because if it does, it's a pretty luxury one at that. All right? I live on the edge of the open countryside. You can see over there in the background, going out to pretty much Greenbelt. I'll take you a little walk around my so-called halfway house. It's my kitchen, one of my bedrooms. Yeah, it's this pretty luxury halfway house. It's a 3-bedroom one. There's another bedroom that I just use for my laundry and stuff, and just bits and bobs. My bathroom, God, what a luxury halfway house this is. And of course, you've seen this room. So we've got a bit of food storage here, and some of the things that I've been getting up to over the last few weeks with, I know it looks a bit weird, but what we've got here is something that generates iron wind. And of course, we're trying to run the hydrogen cell off that. And, whatever comes out of it, we'll relay it back to you. And there's another thing he said. He's never showed us the equipment where, the Trimag system reports to. Here it is over here. You can see it with an antenna, and you'll see it just flash every 3 seconds. And what that's doing, let me put the light on so you can see it. All that's doing when it flashes is it's just an indication that it's collecting another piece of data. So it's just a small box, and it doesn't need to be like the size of a computer, because that has been reliable for the last 5 years. The other part of the equipment's in the loft, and if you want to have a look what that looks like, then you're welcome to go onto the website and you can see, just looks like 3 tubes with the electronics on wooden boards. Yeah, they are on wooden boards because, you know, it's just convenient. So let's continue round my halfway house. Let me show you. I'll show you my car. There you go. So everything I say is not bullshit. It's the real thing. So it's not a halfway house. And I just want to ask you something, you guys. How would you feel if somebody said that your partner was a prostitute? Just let me know how you would feel about that. Because that really upset me more than anything else. And I know what you're saying. Well, what you need to do with the stalker is just ignore them, but they don't go away. Trust me. They keep coming back. Do you want to know what Brian Gunderson looks like? That's him there. He's got a website or a YouTube channel called Geomagnetic Earthwatch. And guess what? 0 qualifications. And what's the big point about all these qualifications? You might ask. Let me tell you something. Would you let a pastry chef service your car? Would you let a butcher do the plumbing on your house? The reason why you won't do these things, or an odd job man fix your central heating system. The reason why you wouldn't do that is because he'd probably blow your fucking house up, wouldn't he? Right? If he'd done something wrong. You only want qualified people doing these jobs for you. And what surprises me on YouTube is that, like Brian Gunderson, like Ben Davison, we're going to get onto him in a bit, don't worry. You know, we've got these people talking about things that they've got no clue about. They're self-taught in the subject and have 0 qualifications. And yet people believe them. And people don't do any background checking themselves because they're lazy. You know, it really upsets me. Okay, so moving on to the muon detectors. He thinks that these can be built for like $20. It's ridiculous. See, this is not a piece of plastic here. That is a singlet. Yeah, it's a tuned piece of crystal. Yeah, and that's what it costs for 3 of those. There's the receipt. That's what it costs. £90 for the 3. And the total with the VAT is £114. That's just for that little piece of crystal. And when you look at that chip in the centre there, the silicon photomultiplier, that costs me over £100. And you can verify that because there's the invoice from the company and the company name. You can go and check it out for yourselves. So we're looking at £114. Okay, split it between 3. Let's say £30 for the singlet, that crystal there. £117 for the silicon photomultiplier in the centre. And then you've got all the other components to build it. Yeah, you've got to pay for the PCB boards to be printed. And you can only order a certain amount. You can't buy these singly. You've got to order them in a certain amount. I think they cost me over £100 something. Maybe over £200. I don't know now. When we was building these, if you remember, the company even commented in the section that made them for us because they was interested in the topic that we was doing themselves and invited us to order as many others from them when we needed them. But we've still got quite a few, as you can see. Then you've got the little Arduino on there. And then you've got all these surface mount resistors and transistors. And this one's in repair at the moment because it's damaged. There's 6 leg transistor just here on the corner. I don't know if you can see that. So we're repairing this one at the moment. We'll get that back up and running soon. But then you're going to need all these other things. Look at this. Each one of these components, as you can imagine, costs a small fortune. You can see how small some of the components are. And you can't buy them singly. You've got to buy them in a small quantity of them. And all these that I'm going to show you now are different. They're not the same as what you think. They're all got different properties about them. You know, I could go on and on and on showing you all the different components that you need to build one of those muon detectors. You know, even that sort of stuff. That's what you use to mount the SIPM onto the Singular. So you need special grease. You need things like this so that, you know, when you've built the actual muon detector, if there is a fault, you can run it through your oscilloscope and find out what the problem is. All these little things are what you need. And I'm not going to stop just there because I really want to drive this home to you guys so that you understand what it costs to build them. These are standoffs, right? These are what you need to bolt the Singulate onto the PCB board. So you join the two PCB boards up with the standoff. And if I can just drop that on there, you get an idea. So then you have your standoffs supporting this end of the muon detector. So in this box is most of the components, not all of them, but most of the components that you have to use to build a muon detector. And I'm just going to show you what that looks like. And I'll open a couple of these little components so that you can see the different values of resistors. But more importantly, you can see how tiny they are. I literally have to use tweezers. So each one of those little compartments contains those very, very tiny resistors, and they're not easy to solder. You can after a little while, you adapt a strategy. So what you do is you heat up the little bit of solder, you dab it on the board, on the components where you've got to solder it, then you get the tweezers, you hold it, you solder one end, then the other. It's not easy. So it's time consuming. Yes, I know that people at MIT, first of all, designed all this for us. We would never have muon detectors here at the observatory if it weren't for MIT. We've never claimed that we have designed this, and well, it'd be very stupid to do so, because if you look on the PCB board, I didn't change the silk screen, which is all this writing on there. I could have told the company to remove it, but I'm not going to claim to have built this myself, because it was built and designed and made free for all of us to, if we wanted to, build one of our own. But if you think you can build one of these for £30, I've just proved you wrong. Clearly, because you see the Singular itself and the SIPM come to over £130. So he's a barefaced liar. He's starting to look like a fool now, isn't he? You know, because we are calling him out on everything. First of all, he says that the certificate is a certificate of attendance. Sorry, Brian Gunderson, it's not. It's a qualification, and you're a fool for thinking that. And it's checkable, verifiable. You can check with Open University because you've seen my TMA number, my personal identifier. We've proved that you can't build these muon detectors for next to nothing like he claims. You know, they cost money and they take time and they require a certain amount of skills. We've showed you the receipts of these components, but it's not just that. We give these away. We don't charge people for the muon detectors and the magnetometers. We give them away. And then, you know, when we do, we have to pay for the shipping to another country. And trust me, it's not cheap. He claims that Kendall doesn't exist. He's not real. Let me show you something. I'll open my email account for you so you can see the emails that Kendall sends. You know, I'm just doing what I have to do because, you know, this guy is seriously damaging not only the reputation of me, but all the work we've done. And it's upsetting. It really is. So let me show you the emails that I get from Kendall. Here you go. This is one he sent the other day. This is Kendall here. Hopefully you can see that. So we've got Kendall here. But what I'm going to do in my search box is I'm going to type his name. Right? So we're going to type Kendall Gibson, and then we can see all the emails of Kendall Gibson that he sent us. You see, he even takes the photos of the muon detector that I've sent out to Canada for him. Look at that. How could you make up that? These are all the emails from Kendall Gibson. It's not looking good for you right now, is it, Brian Gunderson? I think whoever subscribes to you are going to realise you're a fraud. And you've got your website you claim to have. I'm going to show people what it's like. I don't mind if they go over there. This is Brian Gunderson's YouTube channel, Geomagnetic Earthwatch. And you know what? He's got no qualifications in that subject. None whatsoever in geomagnetics. But you've seen my qualifications in earth science. You know, I just want to, you know what's annoyed me more than anything, guys, about this guy, is that what he said about my partner the other day, called her a prostitute. And what we've decided to do is now, obviously, is not going away. He's told me I'm going to be with you for the rest of your life, Gene. So we're collecting now every email that he sends, and we've got videos that he's done. We've also got ones that somebody else has done. Ben Davison, we've collected the videos of how he slandered us because he ain't getting away with it. And Brian Gunderson's not getting away with it. So we're collecting all the emails. And he's going to be brought to court for slander, defamation of character, and victimisation and stalking. And we are going to take him to court. And we're going to sue him. So it doesn't matter what you do, Brian, from this point on. Don't get thinking that you can transfer your property into somebody else's name because, you know, the dates that you decide to transfer it to try and protect your assets ain't going to work for you. You're going to lose them. Because you have cost us money and you've damaged credibility here at this observatory. And we've been honest every speck of the way. And that's your misfortune. You know, you said we've got no equipment. We've got radiation detectors, CO2 detectors. We've got the TriMag, and we've got our own oxygen sensor, which I built myself and programmed using the latest technology. It's got a Luminox sensor in there. You can look it up online how they work, but, you know, it wasn't easy. You know, I spent 2 years programming the TriMag because I had to teach myself programming. You know, it wasn't easy. And we had experts at Langley who even tried to help us and couldn't invest any more of the time and give up. But we got there in the end. We found a way to make it work. What the big problem was is we was trying to push the Arduino to its maximum limit, you know, with the capacity of program that we could write for it. And we had to make it as lean as possible for it to do the last completed task, which was record the information onto the SD card. Well, we got there in the end. And, you know, we've got 5 years worth of, data out of that now. Moving on to another person who's very popular on YouTube, who also hasn't got any qualifications, is Ben Davison. And again, why would you listen to somebody talking about a subject they've got no qualifications in? And again, Ben Davison is another person that has slandered me, and he thinks he's going to get away with it. I'm just going to let that big fish get a little bit bigger, and then I'm going to put that one in court as well. I'm going to go after these people now. I am definitely determined to set the record straight. When they come out for me, for no good reason other than they want to prove themselves to be the most spokeful person in the topics they talk about, when they've got no qualifications. Let me tell you about Ben Davison. Do you know, he slates everybody off at NASA, which is really sad, because I know a lot of people at NASA that work really hard. And of course they can't tell you about everything that they're doing, because it's classified, because a lot of it's to do with the military. It's like the Swarm mission. Do you know that part of that mission was funded by the the military services. It's to do with technology using the geomagnetic mapping system so that an aircraft can fly a lot lower than just, using its standard instruments, and it can fly along the terrain using magnetic mapping. That's what, and they can't release that information because other countries would be using it for their aircraft. Probably the F-35 and the Raptor run that same program for low-level flying, so that they can be stealth under the radar and things like that. So that's why they won't release information on those things to the general public, and you can understand why. But Ben Davison has not got any qualifications in solar physics whatsoever, but he will run down everyone at NASA, at Goddard, for whatever reason, to try and get credibility. And what blows my mind is that he must have now probably 500,000 subscribers, and none of them question his qualifications in his subject. But I have started to hear people complain about him, especially the way he talks to women on his channel, apparently. I don't know, but that's what I've heard. But you know what? Think about what his mobile observatory was actually observing. And what data did you get out of that? That was a Kickstarter, I think he raised over $20,000 for. I think the only thing he managed to observe with that observatory was the states that he was visiting in his minibus with his wife. Yet people like me that go out our way, we do invest our money into things. We do actually build things, and we do actually record it. You know what? Well, the justice is where we are right now on YouTube. We've still, 50,000 subscribers and only 200 following us on Patreon. And that's why, we have refused now to put our data onto the YouTube, because it's a platform for unqualified people. And you should be wary of that. Because I know you wouldn't let a sausage maker service your car. Qualifications are important in life. And another one is David Marilla, Diamond at Open Hammer Ranch. Another one that's, slandered us, called us a charlatan, and God knows what else, and then thought I'd forgot about it, and asked me to come on his pod and do a podcast with him. Are you dreaming? Once you burn your bridge with me, I won't forgive you. And, people have said to me, oh, you and Ben Davison should work together. Why would I work for an apprentice like him? I'm the one with the qualifications. Why would I share my knowledge and expertise with someone like him? Tell me. I'm not going to do it. No way. Especially when he runs me down like he does. He thinks I haven't heard what he says about me on his fly on the wall, and what he's blatantly said in his videos online about me. I'm going to give you a bit of advice. If somebody is running private adverts on their channel on YouTube, they're making money. They're using it as a business. You know that. If someone's got a private shop and they're selling merchandise from that shop, they're making money, and they're using YouTube to do that. And therefore, they are going to choose specific topics of interest just to get the punters in, but they will be directing them to the shop online so that they can make money. Like David Morello told me, he makes £5,000 from his online shop every month, or $5,000. Don't ask me how much Ben Davison's making a month, but I heard that he made £1,000 on his live chat the other day in a few minutes. So it just bewilders me why people are donating and giving them money when they haven't got a qualification, and pretty much what they're talking about is what they've regurgitated from the website. Here's the thing: if the websites, the main organisations like NASA and other companies like USGS, all of a sudden stopped putting their data live out there and free, there would be a lot of these people that would go under tomorrow. Because what would they talk about then? And here's the difference between me and them. You see, I've got a CO2 detector here. I've got an atmospheric oxygen sensor here, radiation detector, Trimag system in the loft, magnetometer in the back room, and muon detector. So I can still talk about this stuff. The reason why is because we have the equipment monitoring these things ourselves. So if for some reason the organisations stop giving out information, people like Ben Davison's screwed. If he can't get hold of any solar data at all, he's screwed. He's got nothing to talk about in them 3 minutes he does every day. Whereas we will always have something to talk about because we don't rely on the internet for our source of information, because we record it here ourselves. And that's why people donate to us. And that's why we've got 180, thereabouts, patrons. So Brian Gunderson, you're a barefaced liar, you're a criminal, you're a stalker, and you're not qualified to talk about the subject you're talking about. And you certainly shouldn't be slandering me off like you have done, unnecessarily and unfairly, like you have done for 2 years now. And that's the same for you, Ben Davison. That's the same for you, David Murillo. I hope people wake up and see what you guys are all about. You know, you three, just you three, I could mention a lot more, are the reason why, you know, people don't trust anyone no more. You know, they're starting to pick on Dutch Sense again. And, you know, I got a lot of respect for him. And, you know, I remember a long time ago, Dutch Sense having a fallout with Suspicious Observers because he tried the same thing on Dutch Sense, what he's tried to do on me. And Dutch fell for it just like I have, you know, in retaliating against it. And I know what you people think. You should just ignore it. You can't ignore a stalker that changes his email address after you've blocked him 20 times. You can't ignore him. So the only way I'm going to get any justice is by building a dossier on all of his, you know, abusive emails and then putting him in court in the short term. That's what we're going to do. Because you cannot avoid them. Because every time I've blocked him or I've ignored him, he'll use another email account, or he gets someone from his YouTube channel to come and join him in the stalking. You can't ignore them. And they can at some point ruin your life, especially when they start making public all your personal information. Like going onto your Facebook account, sharing my family people photos with everybody, which I think is absolutely wrong, because that's for me and my family to enjoy, not for Brian Gunderson to go on there and select photos of my family and make them public. You know, my business records are my personal information. But he's made public every business I've owned. He has no right to do that. And he has no right to call my partner a prostitute. If I could get my hands on him, if he was in the UK, I don't care where he was, I would have knocked on his front door by now. But he's in Canada, 6,000 miles away. And I've tried reporting him to the police. And Gossange, the police officer in his local community, says, I'm not going to do nothing about it. Can you believe that? Yet they have laws in Canada the same as what we do now about online stalking and harassment. And they're not prepared to do anything about it. So, you know, where does that put a victim like me right now in being able to stop him? Obviously, we've proved everything he talks about is nonsense now. He's got no other place to go. You know, I don't live in a halfway house. This house has got no criminals in it. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't take drugs like he said. And I'm not certainly ripping off people, because the money that we raise gets spent on a lot of stuff here. And a lot of the time, it's my money and my time, my professional time that gets invested in these things. But what a world we live in when we have to make videos like this to prove, that I am the real McCoy and that, nobody questions everybody else. And they'll avoid the question. Let's see David Murillo's qualifications. Show me your qualifications. I want to see, like that, your qualifications on the topics you talk about. Show me, Ben Davison, your qualifications. You're not peer reviewed. You're nowhere near peer reviewed. Anyone that looks into what you've done will find that you are not qualified in the subjects that you talk about, and you're not peer reviewed by any scientist or panel. And Brian Gunderson is just a joke as far as I'm concerned. He's just a professional stalker. But he is going to come unstuck. He's definitely going to come unstuck. Because if I have to even sell my car to put him in court, I'm going to do it. And I really mean that. And he'll regret every day for the last 2.5 years that he's been stalking me. Because we've got enough evidence already to get him. So it's just a matter of time. So you carry on emailing me every day like you do, abusing me, calling my wife a prostitute, and see where it gets you. You're a disgusting human being. And so are you, Ben Davison. And so are you, David Murillo. You all are disgusting. That's all I've got to say.